So you wanna be a Dharma teacher? Then listen now to what I say. Just get yourself a set of black robes and take some time and learn how to pray. Alright, hello there, thrill seekers. So you want to be a Dharma teacher. I put up a blog yesterday called So You Want to Be a Dharma Teacher, and I thought what I would do today for the vlog, for the video thing, is sort of talk through that article and see where we get. When I first started studying Zen, maybe a couple of years into it, I did have some sort of fantasy or idea about being a Dharma teacher. And I remember at one point I kind of screwed up my courage to tell my first teacher that, you know, I want to be a teacher. You know, I think I said it like that, you know, with as much, you know, oomph as I could muster in my little 19 or 20-year-old way. And I don't think he even gave me an answer. He just kind of gave me a look. And I can't remember exactly what the look was, but it told me everything I needed to know, and I kind of dropped my idea of wanting to be a Dharma teacher at that moment. I think that at the time I probably thought of being a Dharma teacher as a career move. I was a university student and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I changed majors several times. You know, like every semester I'd have a new major. I was an art major. I was a communications major. I was undecided for a while. I went back and forth. I was a history major in the end. But I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. All I really knew was I didn't want to end up working for a Firestone and tire and rubber company like my dad, or the Beckett paper mill like my grandfather. Not that I think there's anything so terribly wrong with that sort of a career, but it wasn't, especially at 19 or 20 years old, that wasn't what I wanted for my own life. And I looked into I wanted to be a musician. That was my main goal. But when I saw what you had to do to be a professional musician, I wasn't willing to undertake that. You know, traveling in a broken down van all the time, and your only place to eat was fast food restaurants, and the only place to take a shower was truck stops. I had some friends, my friend Steve, who I've mentioned on this page before, who ended up being the drummer for Warrant of She's My Cherry Pie fame. He had stories about surviving in Hollywood on mustard sandwiches. You know, they would put two pieces of bread and spread mustard in the middle of it to give it some flavor, and they had to do that for quite a while before they got anywhere, and there was never any guarantee that it was going to work out for them. You know, I probably figured, though, that being a Dharma teacher would be kind of an easy ticket to a good life. You know, you just dispense words of eternal cosmic wisdom to your adoring followers, and that sounds like a pretty cushy job. You know, it looks nice. But then I looked at what my first teacher had to do to make a living, and he wasn't getting paid to teach Zen. He was teaching philosophy and music courses at Kent State University for a living, and they weren't paying him very much to do that. And even in order to be able to do those things, he had multiple advanced degrees. I think he had two masters or maybe two PhDs. I'm not sure. This guy was and is a real smarty pants guy, and I don't know how he even made the rent. And when I looked at my first teacher, this imagined throng of adoring, sincere students was nowhere to be found. Basically what he had were these kind of curiosity seekers who would show up for a week or two or a month or something, and then never hear from him again. And then you had this other cadre of these people that kind of scared me, which were these sort of needy hangers-on who wanted something. And these people, I could watch them turn belligerent and angry when my first teacher didn't satisfy whatever they thought they wanted, which was pretty much always. He did have a handful of students who were sincere, but we weren't helping him make a living or anything, and I tried to be friendly as possible with him, but I wasn't much help, in his life. And in my own case, as far as becoming a Dharma teacher in the first place, I had to be coerced into it. I've told this story multiple times on this page, but I'll tell it again, is that Nishijima Roshi gave me Dharma transmission, and I didn't really do anything with my degree, such as my certificate of Dharma transmission, such as it was, until he kind of forced my hand. He called me into his office and he said, "I'm getting kind of tired and old, and it's difficult to do these classes every Saturday. Would you please take them over?" And it was a sort of a situation where it would have been really callous of me to refuse, so I said okay. And then he did the same damn thing with me about the retreats that he held every year in English. Asked me if I wouldn't please consider taking them. So I was kind of pushed into it. It wasn't really something I wanted to do. Now, I hear a lot from people these days who say they want to be Dharma teachers. And if that is your aspiration in life, your life goal, there are places you can go where you can do some sort of program and end up, if you don't screw it up too badly, with some sort of certification to be a Dharma teacher. I don't know a whole lot about those places. I mean, there's bigger institutions that do that, like San Francisco Zen Center and maybe Minneapolis Zen Center, I'm not sure, and maybe the place in the East Coast that used to be run by John Daido Lori. I think they do it. And then there's, of course, these smaller sort of places here and there that do it. But it's sort of like being a yoga teacher, an accredited yoga teacher, only worse, because there's no sort of unified system of accreditation out there. If you go through a big institution like San Francisco Zen Center, or go to Japan and get it through Soto Shu, your certificate of Dharma might be more valuable than a certificate of Dharma from if you're a joker like me, or some less well-known, less well-connected teacher or organization. But even so, even if you get it from Soto Shu, you're going to have to figure out a way to make that work as a way to make a living. And frankly, almost every Dharma teacher I know has some other means of support. They're not living solely. They're not making their living solely by doing that. Ziggy, what are you eating? Don't eat whatever that is, okay? Why are you looking at me like I'm quizzing you? Thank you. He's been pooping weird, and I think it's because he's eating random things off the ground. Anyway, good luck finding a job with that. It's not like you can go on LinkedIn and find a lot of different positions open for qualified Dharma teachers. Believe me, I have tried. I've actually tried. There isn't anything out there. Besides that, I have never encountered anyone who had the burning desire to be a Dharma teacher and then later on, as I followed their trajectory, ended up being a very good Dharma teacher. They're always much more into the image of being a Dharma teacher than they are into the teaching itself. That's at least what I've seen happen. But those kind of people aren't entirely useless, the sort of performers who perform the role of Dharma teacher. And the reason they're not entirely useless is because the name of the game, the trick, the way you can make a living at it is to appear to be wise. And one way to do that is to quote the words of people who actually were wise, ancient teachers of the past, or maybe even contemporary teachers. So these kind of performers will end up disseminating teachings that they themselves don't even really understand, but sometimes somebody who does understand what they're saying will pick up on it, and then that's how it goes into the next generation. And I really believe that this is probably the formula that Buddhism has lived by for the past 2,500 years. Because there can't be a dharmic genius in every generation, in every location, but you can kind of have the thing carry on through people who are able to imitate it, or who maybe have some level of understanding of it, and it propagates that way. But having said that, I feel like we've pretty much saturated the market on that kind of thing at this point. I don't think the world needs a lot more of that. I think there might have been a time in the Western world where that was necessary, and where certain teachers understood that that was necessary, that you just get it out there any way it gets out there, and blast it big, and try to get it going. I think that would account for some of the rather curious decisions certain teachers of the past made for who to make their Dharma heirs. But I'm not going to be more specific than that because I don't want to get in trouble. But I think we've got plenty of that already, so I don't think there's any burning need for it. Now, I've never considered myself to be a professional Dharma teacher. I make my living by writing books and then doing the things that writers of books of all kinds, not just books about Buddhism, have to do to make a living. And one of them is this YouTube channel you're watching right now. When I first started doing this, I still had my job at Tsuburaya Productions. That's when they transferred me over to Los Angeles, and I started a little sitting group in Santa Monica, and I was still working for them, and that was my way of making a living. After I lost that job, I tried a whole bunch of different things to try to make it work, because I didn't know what else I was going to do. I was actually even looking for other jobs in the entertainment industry and so forth, and meanwhile doing this thing. And one of my first solutions was to take the show on the road. So I would stuff as many books as I could into the trunk of my PT Cruiser, which is the car I had at the time, and drive around to various Zen centers, or sometimes universities, or whatever, any coffee houses, anything that would have me, and give a talk, and then sell as many books as I could, and maybe make a little bit in donations. And I was barely making back my expenses. I still had some savings to fall back on, but this wasn't working, and I kept doing it more and more until there was a point at which it became apparent to me that having an apartment, as I did in Santa Monica, was just a glorified storage unit, and I was just throwing money away on it. So I gave that up, put everything in an actual storage unit, which was a lot cheaper, skateboarders, which was a lot cheaper, and then for almost a year I was technically homeless. I used a friend's address to get my mail, and then I would just stay with whoever would put me up, but that wasn't sustainable either. And eventually I kind of, through hit and miss, got into what I do now, which is infrequent tours, mostly of Europe, and this YouTube channel, and then whatever I can get from royalty checks for books. And I've finally found a way to make it work, but it wasn't easy. One solution that a lot of people do that did not work for me was to start your own Zen center. That's like the standard thing to do. But in my case, the Zen center I started, frankly, did not work out. It was supposed to, initially the idea was I was supposed to be able to earn money from the Zen Center, but actually what I ended up doing was financing the Zen Center not to a complete extent, but to a large extent. I was sending them a lot of money. And then we had the system with a board of directors, and the board of directors clearly after a while saw me more as a mascot than a teacher. I felt like Scooby-Doo in the Scooby-Doo show. In the Scooby-Doo show, Scooby-Doo's name is in the title of the show, and he's the reason everybody tunes in to watch. But Velma and Fred and Daphne, they don't listen to anything Scooby-Doo has to say. So that's kind of what I felt like there. And I don't know, I might start another sitting group one of these days, but I'm done with the whole Zen Center thing. I think most people who say they want to be Dharma teachers ought to spend some time being Dharma learners instead. I said something in one of my articles or vlogs or something about ambitious people in the Zen world, and there really are a lot. Somebody wrote back to me that she was surprised to hear that, but there really is a lot of ambitiousness in this world, because there's, people see it as a, like I did, as a career move, as something to do with their lives, and they want to get certified and they want to get credentials and stuff, and a lot of them are trying to walk, trying to run before they're able to walk, I think is the cliche. And I think most people just need to calm down and just settle in and learn and forget about being a teacher altogether. So my advice would be, don't try if you want to be a Dharma teacher. Just learn, and if it turns out that your unique take on the Dharma and your unique way of teaching it is needed, you will know. People will show up, things will happen, you will know that what you have to offer is wanted and needed, and then you go out and do your best trying to offer it. I really have faith that that is what will happen to anybody who's sincere about this stuff. So there you go. So you want to be a Dharma teacher, that's my advice. And if you want to support me doing what I do, which I just described to you, you can go to the URL you're seeing on the screen below, which is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. There you will find links to my PayPal and Patreon accounts. Those are my main means of support, as I just explained to you, and I really appreciate your support. But as always, this is offered for free, so you don't gotta donate if you don't want to donate. I don't get a salary. How I get a salary is by begging for a salary on the internet. So does that sound good to you? I don't know. Does this kind of lifestyle sound good to you? Anyway, we will see you again. Have a good time all the time. Bye. Hey Ziggy, are you eating random stuff? Were you eating random stuff off the side? What are you looking at? Is there something interesting over there? Something more interesting than me? Anyway, please don't barf. I'll talk to you later. Bye, Ziggy.